My mom stood up at her birthday dinner and called me a freeloading loser. When she announced she was selling the house to stop enabling me, I finally said how exactly all the papers are in my name. This whole mess started when I was 18 and my dad passed away because of a heart attack. Not going to sugarcoat it. Losing him sucked, and it left our family in a tough spot. Dad worked at Midwest Manufacturing for 30 years. Decent union job with good benefits, but medical bills and funeral costs still hit us hard. Here's where it gets complicated. I 25 male had a full scholarship to state, not Harvard or anything fancy, but it would have covered tuition and given me a solid shot at an engineering degree. My mom Abigail really wanted me to take it. My siblings Finn second year pre-med, Isla junior in computer science, and Diana high school junior all assumed I would, but somebody had to help mom keep the house. The mortgage payments were brutal and her part-time job at a boutique wasn't cutting it. My siblings all had their paths figured out. Finn was already committed to medical school. Ela had internships lined up, even once she started working. She made it clear her money was for her. New apartment, travel house savings. Helping mom wasn't on her to-do list, and Diana had colleges recruiting her for marketing programs. I made a choice that I thought was temporary. I deferred my scholarship for a year and got into the tool and die apprenticeship program at Dad's old plant. The pay was decent, better than anything else I could get with just a high school diploma, and I figured I'd help mom get stable, then go to college the following year. That's where the first crack started showing. Mom appreciated the help, but she also started getting weird about it. She'd make comments like, "Your father would be so proud that you're taking care of the family," but then turn around and ask when I was planning to get serious about your future. Mixed messages that left me confused about what she actually wanted. My siblings were worse. Finn would make jokes about me playing house with mom. Ela kept sending me job listings for entry-level positions with growth potential, like I was unemployed, instead of learning precision machining and working 45 hours a week. Diana started telling her friends I was taking a gap year to figure things out, which wasn't exactly wrong, but felt dismissive. The worst part was family dinners. They'd talk about their classes, their internships, their 5-year plans, and then the conversation would just stop when they got to me. Like learning to operate CNC machines and precision measurement wasn't worth discussing. When I'd mentioned stuff happening at work, they'd nod politely and change the subject. After 6 months, I tried to address it directly. I told mom I was thinking about applying for spring admission, maybe starting college the next semester. She got this panicked look and said, "But what about the house payments? What about the bills? I can't handle all this alone." So I stayed another semester, then another. Meanwhile, Finn was posting about his MCAT prep. Isla was getting job offers from tech companies, and Diana was visiting college campuses. The resentment started building on both sides. They felt like I was choosing the easy path instead of pushing myself. I felt like they were happy to let me sacrifice my plans as long as it didn't affect theirs. 2 years in, I finally put my foot down. I told mom I was going back to school the following fall. Period. I'd saved enough to cover her expenses for a few months, and it was time for me to focus on my own future. That's when she dropped the guilt bomb. "I guess I'll have to sell the house then. I can't afford it without your help, and I don't want to be a burden on Finn when he's starting medical school." Finn, who was sitting right there, didn't offer to help. Neither did I, who was making good money at her tech job by then. They just sat there while mom made it clear that my leaving would force her to give up the family home. So, I stayed and I started getting angry about it. But here's what really started eating at me. I wasn't just paying bills, I was funding their lifestyles. Finn's medical school expenses. I was covering his car payment and insurance so he could focus on studies. Layla's student loans from her computer science degree. I was making the monthly payments because she was saving for a house. Diana's college application fees, SAT prep courses, and campus visits all coming out of my paycheck. Meanwhile, they were treating me like the family screw-up who couldn't figure out his life. I wasn't silent, though. I started calling them out on their BS. When Finn made jokes about my job, I'd point out that I was contributing more to the family financially than he was. When Isla sent me condescending job listings, I'd send them back with notes about how they paid less than what I was already making as a skilled tradesman. When mom would sigh about sacrifices, I'd remind her that other people in the family could make sacrifices too. This went on for 3 more years. Me, working and paying everyone's bills, them pursuing their dreams while acting like I was some kind of charity case they had to tolerate. The tension kept building, and I knew something was going to blow up eventually. I just didn't expect it to happen the way it did. By the time I turned 23, I'd been bankrolling my family for 5 years. And I mean really bankrolling them. I wasn't just helping with groceries and utilities. Let me break down the math for you because I started keeping track. Mom's mortgage, I was covering 60% of the monthly payment, $1,200 per month. Finn's car payment and insurance, $420 per month. Layla's student loan payments, $380 per month. Diana's college expenses, $600 plus per month. Tuition assistance books, emergency expenses. Family health insurance, $290 per month. I was the only one with decent coverage through my job. House maintenance and repairs. Whatever it cost, usually $200 to $500 per month. I was paying out almost $3,000 a month. Meanwhile, I was living in the basement driving a 12-year-old Honda and eating whatever was available at work every day. The breaking point came when Diana asked me to pay for her spring break trip to Cancun. Not asked, told me. She literally said, "I need $800 for spring break. Can you Venmo it to me by Friday?" For what spring break? All my friends are going and I can't be the only one who doesn't go. I stared at her. You want me to pay for your vacation? It's not a vacation. It's a networking opportunity. Lots of important connections happen during spring break. Diana, you're 22 years old. Spring break in Cancun is not networking. She got that annoyed look she always got when someone questioned her logic. God, Max, you're so negative. This is important for my future. Then pay for it yourself. You have a part-time job. I make like $200 a week. That barely covers my social expenses. Your social expenses. Going out with friends, clothes, makeup, normal college stuff. I can't pay for spring break with that. That's when it hit me. She thought her part-time job was for fun money, and my full-time job was for her actual expenses. They all did. I looked around the table at my family. Finn was nodding along like Diana's request was completely reasonable. Isla was scrolling through her phone, barely paying attention. Mom was doing that thing where she stayed quiet during money conversations so she could claim she never asked for anything. No, I said. Diana blinked. What do you mean, no, I'm not paying for your spring break trip, but I already told everyone I was going. Then you better figure out how to pay for it. She turned to Mom. Mom, are you listening to him? Say something. Mom sighed. Max, come on. Diana works hard in school, and it's not like you can't pay for that. I work hard. That doesn't mean you guys pay for my vacations. You don't take vacations. Finn pointed out like that proved something, right? Because I'm too busy bankrolling your lives. The room went quiet. What's that supposed to mean? Isla asked, finally looking up from her phone. It means I've been supporting this family for 5 years while you all act like I'm the one with no ambition. I'm paying your car payment, Finn. I'm paying your student loans, Isla. I'm paying for Diana's college. And somehow I'm still the disappointment. First, we never called you a disappointment. Second, we never asked you to do that, Mom said quietly. I looked at her for a second. This woman acting like she wasn't crying about the house every time I mentioned being done. Are you serious right now? Never asked me. Every time I mentioned going to school, you guilt-tripped me about bills. Every time I wanted to save money for myself, there was some family emergency that needed my paycheck. Okay, no need to play the victim, dude. Finn said, we're grateful for your help, are you? Because you've got a funny way of showing it. I pulled out my phone and opened the Notes app where I'd been tracking expenses. Want to know what I've spent on this family in the past 5 years? $180,000. That's more than most people make in 4 years. I've paid Finn's car expenses for 4 years running. Layla's student loans, Diana's college expenses, Mom's mortgage assistance, and that's not counting utilities insurance repairs and all the random stuff you guys needed help with. They all just stared at me. I deferred college to help keep this family afloat. 5 years later, you all have degrees and careers and I'm still here paying your bills while you make jokes about my job. Mac's mom started. We're family. That's what families do. They step up. You're right, families do help each other. So why am I the only one helping? OMG, just stop. All this because I asked for $800. You're stingy as hell, Diana yelled. Silence. That's when I made the decision that changed everything. All right, I'm done, I said. As of the 1st of next month, I'm not paying for anyone else's expenses. You say I'm stingy, fine, but I'll act like one. Diana started crying. What the hell is wrong with you? You can't just abandon us. What about Mom's house? Finn asked. What about it? You're finishing medical school. Isla makes good money. You two can split Mom's expenses if you're so concerned about it. Figure it out. You ungrateful piece of... Are you abandoning your own mother? Mom yelled. We have our own expenses, Isla said. So do I. I stood up from the table. I'm moving out at the end of the month. Mom started crying. Max, please, we can't afford this without you. Then maybe you should have treated me like a son instead of a bank account. And that's where things went to absolute. The 3 weeks between my announcement and moving out were tense as hell. They went through all the stages of grief except instead of acceptance. At the end, they settled on rage. First came denial. Mom kept asking if I was really serious about moving out and cutting off financial support. She'd make comments like, "Once you think about it more, you'll realize family comes first." Then bargaining. Finn offered to help me budget better so I could afford to keep supporting them. Isla suggested I could just help with emergencies instead of regular expenses. Diana promised she'd pay me back someday if I just covered her remaining college costs. When those didn't work, they moved to anger. Finn started making snide comments about how I was abandoning the family when they needed me most. Hila told anyone who would listen that I was being selfish and ungrateful. Diana straight up ignored me, which was honestly an improvement. But Mom wasn't going to let me slide. Her 55th birthday was around that time, and she started planning a celebration. Big party, lots of guests, the whole 9 yards. She was unusually excited about it, talking about how she had big news to share, and how it was going to be a night to remember. At first, I didn't want to go, especially after what happened, but she insisted. She sat me down and said, "Max, I know what happened was absolutely wrong. We're sorry for not noticing we wore you down for so long, but son, I want you at my birthday. Don't bring anything if you don't want to. Just be there and let's make things right. I promise you, things will be exactly as you wish." And of course, I believed her. Years of being gaslit and manipulated don't just disappear. Ha, wrong. I knew exactly what that was going to be. So I showed up that night at Tony's Italian. Didn't bring anything, just myself, as she said. About 30 people were there. Church friends, neighbors, some of Mom's co-workers, the usual crowd of middle-aged suburbanites who lived for this kind of social drama. Halfway through dinner, Mom stood up with her glass. "I want to thank everyone for coming tonight. I also want to make an announcement that I've been thinking about for a long time. Here it comes. As you all know, I've been blessed with 4 children. 3 of them have made me incredibly proud with their dedication to success and family values." She looked directly at Finn, Hila, and Diana as she said this. The crowd was nodding along, making those appreciative sounds people make at family gatherings. Finn is finishing his medical degree and preparing for his residency. Isla was just promoted to senior developer at her tech company. And Diana just graduated magna cum laude and landed a competitive marketing position. Polite applause from the audience. Then her expression changed. But tonight, I want to talk about the importance of accountability and tough love. Sometimes as parents, we enable our children's poor choices by continuing to support them when they should be learning independence, which is why I've made the difficult decision to stop enabling my son's lack of ambition. Max has been living at home for 5 years, refusing to pursue higher education or career advancement content to work the same trade job, while his siblings have built successful careers. The room was dead silent. I could feel every pair of eyes turning to look at me. Effective immediately, I'm selling this house and downsizing to a condo. It's time for Max to learn what real independence looks like without the safety net that's been holding him back. Mrs. Henderson from church raised her hand. "But Abigail, what about Max? Where will he go?" Mom smiled, that fake sweet smile she used when she wanted to seem reasonable. "He's a grown man with a job. I'm sure he'll figure it out. Sometimes tough love is exactly what our children need to reach their potential." Everyone was nodding along. These people were actually buying her story about the lazy son who needed to be kicked out for his own good. I sat there for maybe 10 seconds. Then I stood up. She actually thought I'd make the sad, silent exit and let her humiliate me in front of half the town. Wrong. Just so everyone understands what's actually happening here, I said, my voice carrying across the silent room. My mother just announced she's making me homeless. What she didn't mention is that I've been paying nearly $3,000 a month to support this family for the past 5 years. The murmurs started immediately. I deferred college to help pay my mom's mortgage after my dad died. I've been covering my brother's car payments, my sister's student loans, and my other sister's college expenses. The trade job she's talking about, I'm a skilled tool and die maker who's been supporting 4 adults while they built their careers. Mom's face went white. "Max, this isn't the time or place." "No, I think it's exactly the time and place. Since you decided to publicly humiliate me, let's make sure everyone has the full story." I pulled out my phone and opened my expense tracking app. $180,000. That's what I've contributed to this family's expenses over 5 years. While my siblings were in college and graduate school, I was working 50-hour weeks running precision machining operations to keep everyone afloat. The room was buzzing now. People were looking back and forth between me and Mom, like they were watching a tennis match. 3 weeks ago, I told my family I was done being their personal bank account. I was moving out and stopping the financial support. This party isn't about tough love, it's about revenge. Finn tried to interrupt. Max, you're being dramatic. I'm being honest, which is more than I can say for any of you. I looked directly at Mom. You want to talk about accountability? Let's talk about it. You've been living off your son's paycheck for 5 years. Not anymore. Then I walked out, left my entire family sitting there with 30 witnesses to what had really been happening for the past 5 years. I drove home to find my key didn't work exactly as I'd expected. There was a note taped to the door. Your belongings are in storage unit 47 at Secure Store on Maple Street. You have 30 days to make other arrangements. This is what's best for you, Mom. But here's the thing. I'd been planning for this. I already had an apartment lined up, first month's rent, paid, utilities in my name. I'd been expecting them to retaliate somehow, just not quite this publicly. I spent that night in my new place sitting on an air mattress eating takeout Chinese food and feeling oddly relieved. For the first time in 5 years, I didn't have to worry about anyone else's bills. My paycheck was mine. What I didn't realize was how much trouble my family was about to be in without my financial support. While I was settling into my new apartment and enjoying the novelty of keeping my entire paycheck, my family was discovering exactly how much they had been depending on my income. The first sign of trouble came 2 weeks after the birthday disaster. Finn called me at work. We hadn't spoken since the party. Max, we need to talk. Do we? It's about Mom's house. She can't make the mortgage payment without your contribution. Come on now, man. That sounds like a problem you'll need to solve. You're almost done with medical school, right? Oh, and what happened to selling the house? Didn't she announce that in front of everyone? I can't afford to cover what you were paying? I have my own expenses. So does everyone else in the world. Figure it out. Come on, man. Don't be like this. We're family, are we, though? Mom was trying to motivate you. Mom was trying to punish me for setting boundaries. And now you're all learning what those boundaries cost you. I hung up on him. But the calls kept coming from Mom, from Diana, even from Finn's girlfriend, who I barely knew, all with variations of the same message. Couldn't I just help out until they figured things out? The answer was no. And watching them scramble was honestly satisfying as hell. Within a month, the real consequences started showing. Mom had to put the house on the market, but not by choice. She couldn't afford the payments without my contribution, and none of my siblings were willing or able to make up the difference. The house that had been in our family for 15 years, the one I'd worked my ass off to help keep, was gone because they'd bitten the hand that fed them. Finn had to sell his car and get something cheaper. Turns out a medical student's budget was tight even without helping family, and he couldn't take on an extra $400 a month. Isla had to move back in with Mom temporarily because her student loan payments had resumed and she couldn't afford her apartment rent, plus helping with family expenses. Diana had to drop out of college mid-semester. Without my financial support, she couldn't afford tuition, and none of her siblings could help her. She ended up moving back home and getting a job at Target while she figured out how to pay for school herself. But the best part, they couldn't admit what was really happening. Mom told her church friends that she was downsizing for retirement. Finn told people he wanted a more practical car. Isla claimed she was saving money by living at home. Diana said she was taking a break from school to gain work experience. Meanwhile, I was thriving. Without $3,000 a month going to their expenses, I had money for myself for the first time since I was 18. I bought decent furniture, got a newer car, started taking night classes at the community college. That's when I met Sloan at the laundromat. She was doing her washing at 2 a.m. because she worked night shifts at the hospital, and I was there because I was still adjusting to having a social life again. You look happy for someone doing laundry at 2 o'clock in the morning. She said, I'm just enjoying having money for quarters, I replied. She laughed. That's either really sad or there's a good story behind it. Definitely a good story. That's how I ended up telling a complete stranger about my family's financial manipulation and public humiliation campaign. Sloan listened without judgment, asked good questions, and when I finished, she said something that stuck with me. Sounds like they did you a favor. Now you know exactly what your family relationships were worth to them. About $3,000 a month. We started hanging out regularly. Coffee after her shift's, lunch on weekends, just easy conversation with someone who didn't have any expectations about what I should be doing with my life. 6 months later, when we'd been officially dating for a while, she asked about my family situation. Do you ever hear from them? Occasionally, usually when they need money for something, she raised an eyebrow. They still ask you for money. After all that desperation makes people shameless. She was quiet for a moment. What do you tell them? I don't tell them anything. I don't answer their calls. That's when she smiled. Good. They made their choice. Now they get to live with it. I knew I was going to marry this woman. For about 8 months after I cut them off, my family left me alone. I figured they'd finally accepted that I wasn't coming back to fund their lifestyles. I should have known better. The harassment started when I got promoted to lead tool and die maker at the plant. Someone from our hometown saw it mentioned in the company newsletter and apparently passed the information along to my family. Suddenly, I was getting messages again. Not from them directly. They were too smart for that, but from their network of friends, church acquaintances, and mutual connections. High school classmates I hadn't talked to in years were suddenly reaching out. Hey Max, ran into your mom at the grocery store. She seems really sad about you guys not talking. Maybe you should give her a call. Church friends of mom's would approach me at the gas station. Your mother talks about you all the time. She's so proud of your promotion. I'm sure she'd love to hear from you. Even some of my coworkers started getting approached. Layla's college roommate somehow found out where I worked and called my supervisor, supposedly wanting to network, but really fishing for information about my job and personal life. The common theme in all these contacts was that my family missed me and wanted to make things right. But notably, none of them reached out directly to apologize or acknowledge what they'd done wrong. Sloan noticed the pattern before I did. They're running a campaign, she said one night after I told her about the latest coincidental encounter. What do you mean they're trying to wear you down through social pressure? Get enough people telling you that your family misses you, and eventually you'll start feeling guilty for maintaining boundaries. She was right. The constant stream of messages was getting exhausting, not because I missed them, but because I was tired of explaining why I wasn't interested in reconciling. Things escalated when Mom started showing up places where she knew I'd be. The grocery store I always went to on Sunday mornings, the coffee shop near the plant, the community college where I was taking night classes. She'd happen to be there when I arrived, and she'd make these big emotional displays for whoever else was around. Max, oh my God, I can't believe I ran into you. I've been hoping I'd see you. The first time it happened, I was caught off guard. She grabbed me in a hug before I could react, talking loudly about how much she'd missed me, while everyone in the store watched. We need to sit down and talk, sweetheart. I know I made mistakes, but family is family. I pulled back from the hug. There's nothing to talk about. Her face changed instantly. The tears started, and she got this hurt expression designed to make me look like the bad guy. I don't understand why you're being so cruel. I'm your mother. Well, ex-mother at this point, she didn't like that. Looked at me like I just murdered her dog. I walked away, but I could hear her talking to other customers about how difficult the situation was and how she was trying so hard to reach out to her ungrateful son. This happened 4 more times over the next month. After the 5th ambush, I'd had enough. I called her. Stop stalking me. I don't know what you mean, sweetheart. You don't shop at that grocery store, you don't drink coffee, and you sure as hell don't take community college classes. You're showing up places specifically to ambush me. I just want to see my son. You want to manipulate me in front of witnesses so I'll look like the bad guy for maintaining boundaries. Silence. I miss you, she finally said, dropping the innocent act. I made a mistake, and I'm trying to fix it. You made multiple mistakes over several years. So what? You're going to punish us forever. Over money. Yes. She was quiet for a moment. Then what do you want from me? Nothing. That's what you don't understand. I don't want anything from you. I want you to leave me alone. I can't do that. You're my son. Then you should have treated me like one. I hung up and blocked her number, but that didn't stop the campaign. If anything, it made them more desperate. 2 weeks after I blocked Mom's number, things escalated in a way that made me realize how far my family was willing to go to get back their financial support. Sloan came home from work one day looking angrier than I'd ever seen her. Your sister Isla called my supervisor at the hospital. I put down my coffee. What? She introduced herself as your sister and said she was concerned about my professional judgment because I was enabling your self-destructive behavior. She tried to get you in trouble at work. She suggested that maybe someone in healthcare shouldn't be supporting someone who is estranged from his family due to mental health issues, and that my supervisor might want to look into the situation. She tried to make me look like I was dating someone unstable. The implication was that I had poor judgment and maybe shouldn't be trusted with patient care. What did your supervisor say? She told Isla that my personal relationships weren't her business unless they affected my work performance, which they don't. But Max, your sister tried to mess with my career. That's crossing a line. She was right. Going after Sloan's job was escalating from harassment to actual sabotage. I'm done being polite about this, Sloan said. They want to play hardball. Fine. That's when she told me about the documentation she'd been keeping. Every proxy message, every coincidental encounter, every escalation in their behavior. She'd been building a case file without me even knowing it. I've been documenting everything they've done for the past months, she said, showing me a folder on her laptop. Every boundary violation, every manipulation attempt, every escalation, including this attempt to interfere with my career. The folder was comprehensive. Screenshots of messages from their proxies, photos she'd taken when Mom coincidentally showed up at places I frequented, even a recording of one of Mom's public scenes. Apparently, she'd started recording when she saw the pattern developing. What are you planning to do with all this? I'm going to compile it into a timeline and send it to them with a very clear message about what happens if they don't stop. Damn, that's hot. Shut up, Max. She spent the next evening putting together what she called the full documentation. It was professional, factual, and damning. A comprehensive timeline of their behavior over the past 6 months, complete with evidence and witness statements. Then she sent it to all 4 of them, Mom, Finn, Hila, and Diana, with a message that was polite but firm. This documentation represents 6 months of escalating harassment directed at Max and myself. As you can see from the timeline, your behavior has progressed from indirect pressure to direct interference with our employment and professional relationships. This pattern constitutes harassment under state law. If any member of your family or anyone acting on your behalf contacts either of us again in any capacity, we will be filing formal complaints with law enforcement and sharing this documentation with relevant employers and institutions. Max has made his boundaries clear repeatedly. It's time to respect them. The response was immediate and exactly what Sloan had predicted. Finn called me at work the next day, furious. You can't get your girlfriend to threaten to ruin our careers? What, I can't hear you? Well, I said, enjoying the panic in his voice a little too much. Okay, this isn't funny, Max. Seriously, this is insane. We're trying to rebuild our relationship. What, dude? What are you saying? I said again. Max, we just want you to come home. She's turning you against family. I am home. Then I hung up and blocked the number. That evening, I got a group text from another unknown number. Max, this has gone too far. We need to talk and figure out how to move forward as a family. And next time when I call you, you better not act like a freaking deaf person. I showed it to Sloan. They're still trying. Oh, God. For 2 days, things went quiet. I figured they'd finally gotten the message, but then Sloan's mom called her confused and upset. Someone claiming to be Max's mother contacted me on Facebook. She told Sloan. She said she was concerned about your relationship with him and thought I should know he had anger issues and was estranged from his family due to mental health problems. They weren't backing down. I was done playing nice. Sloan's harassment folder had grown into a masterpiece of evidence. Everything organized with the precision of someone who'd spent months watching idiots dig their own graves. I found a lawyer. Let's call him Joe. Joe took one look at Sloan's documentation and started grinning like Christmas morning. Your girlfriend is thorough. He said, I've seen FBI cases with less organization. She's got a thing for details. Well, her thing for details is about to cost your family some money. We're preparing to file defamation and a restraining order. But first, we'll give them a chance to settle quietly. If they don't, we'll burn the whole house down. The defamation suit was for $50,000 in damages, lost wages, emotional distress, and harm to professional reputation. The restraining order would legally require them to stay 500 feet away from us, our home, and our workplaces. Hila got served first at her company. According to her coworker, who Sloan knew through mutual friends, Hila completely lost it in the office when the process server handed her the papers. He's suing me for trying to help him. I was concerned about his girlfriend's judgment. Apparently, Hila spent the rest of the day crying at her desk and calling everyone she knew to complain about how unfair it was. Mom got served at her new full-time job, the first real job she'd had in 20 years. She was working at a department store, and the process server found her folding clothes in the women's section. The manager had to send her home early because she couldn't stop crying and telling customers about how her ungrateful son was destroying the family with lawsuits. Finn got his papers at the hospital where he was doing his residency. A process server walking into a medical facility to hand legal documents to a resident. That's the kind of thing that gets noticed by supervisors and program directors. Diana, still living at home and working retail, got served at Target. Her manager was not thrilled about having legal drama in the workplace. The lawsuit hit them exactly where it hurt most: their money and their reputations. Hila had to hire her own lawyer to defend against the defamation suit. Legal fees started at $5,000 just for the initial consultation and response. Her attempt to get it dismissed failed, which meant more legal fees. Mom couldn't afford a lawyer on her store salary. She tried to represent herself, which went about as well as you'd expect. Joe ate her alive in depositions. The depositions were recorded, and Joe made sure to ask pointed questions about the $180,000 I'd contributed to family expenses over 5 years. Mom had to admit under oath that I'd been financially supporting the family while she publicly claimed I was a disappointment. The restraining order was granted without contest. They were legally prohibited from coming within 500 feet of Sloan or me, our home, our workplaces, or contacting us in any way. Violation meant immediate arrest. But here's where it got really good. The restraining order was a matter of public record. Finn's medical residency program found out about it during a routine background check update. Having a restraining order filed against you for harassment doesn't exactly scream professional medical judgment. He didn't get kicked out, but it definitely didn't help his reputation. Word got around the hospital about the resident with family drama and legal issues. Layla's company found out when her lawyer contacted HR about the defamation case. Tech companies don't love having employees involved in harassment lawsuits, especially when it involves interfering with someone else's career. She didn't get fired, but her next promotion mysteriously got delayed. Diana's retail job found out when she had to miss work for legal proceedings. Target doesn't pay enough to deal with employees who bring legal drama to work. Mom's department store job found out when she kept having emotional breakdowns about the lawsuit during work hours. Customer service roles don't work well when you're crying and telling shoppers about your family's legal problems. While they were dealing with lawyers' legal fees and professional consequences, Sloan and I were having the time of our lives. I'd been promoted again at work. Now I was running the entire tool and die department, making more money than I'd ever imagined possible. The plant had landed several major contracts, and my department was killing it. Sloan got selected for a leadership development program at the hospital. 6 months after filing the lawsuit, Joe called with news. They begged to settle once they realized we weren't bluffing and couldn't afford the legal firestorm. For how much? Full amount $50,000. Plus they're agreeing to a permanent restraining order and a non-disclosure agreement. They can't talk about you or Sloan to anyone ever. They're paying us $50,000 to shut up and go away. They're paying you $50,000 to make this go away. The legal fees were killing them, and the restraining order was already affecting their jobs. They can't afford for this to drag out. I thought about it for maybe 3 seconds. Deal. The settlement check arrived on a Tuesday. $50,000 made out to me and Sloan. Our first major joint financial windfall that didn't come from me working myself to death, supporting ungrateful family members. That weekend, I took Sloan to the same laundromat where we'd met 2 years earlier. It was 2 a.m. just like that first night. "Why are we doing laundry at 2 a.m. when we have a perfectly good washer and dryer?" she asked. I pulled the ring box out of my pocket. I figured if you said no, at least we'd have clean clothes for the breakup. She started laughing before I even got down on one knee. She looked at the ring, then at me, then at the laundromat around us. "You proposed to me in a laundromat at 2 a.m. after we got paid to make your family shut up forever. Is that a yes?" "That's the most romantic thing ever." "Yes, you absolute weirdo." And just like that, I got engaged to the love of my life. My family, they're all still struggling. Mom's still working retail. Finn's residency got extended due to professional development concerns. Isla's stuck in the same job with no advancement prospects. Diana is still living at home working part-time and taking community college classes she can barely afford. Meanwhile, I'm running a department married to an amazing woman living in a house I actually own. The best part, they can't say a word about any of it. Checkmate.